In a quiet corner of the ancient world, long before skyscrapers reached the clouds and machines buzzed with life, there existed a people few have heard of. They called themselves Mandaeans, a word whispered through the ages like a wind carrying ancient knowledge. The name itself, Mandaean, comes from the Aramaic word manda, which means knowledge. These were not ordinary people. They believed they held a secret, one older than empires, deeper than oceans, a divine spark hidden within every soul. Mandaeans were not just followers of a religion. They were the last living echo of a long-lost world, the only known gnostic sect that survived from antiquity into our time. Gnosticism, a term drawn from the Greek gnosis, also means knowledge, but not just any knowledge, sacred, mystical truth. Truth that tells us the world is not as it seems. That behind the curtain of daily life lies a battle between realms of light and darkness. This is their story. They believe in one God, but not like the personal gods you may hear about in temples or churches. Their God is the great life, a formless, brilliant force too vast for human minds to grasp. Some call it the King of Light, others the Great Mind. It exists beyond the stars, untouched by the chaos of this world. To the Mandaeans, the material world is a trap, a distraction, a puzzle built to confuse the soul and bury its light. Their world is divided into three parts: the light world, the earthly world, and the dark world. The light world is the eternal home of the great life and its angelic servants, the Uthri. These beings are made of pure light. They sing, they bless, and they serve the divine will. But below them, something darker stirs. The dark world is ruled by Ruha, the mother of darkness. She is chaos, confusion, and decay. Her monstrous son, helps her reign over the shadowy domain. Together they birth demons, false stars, and twisted spirits. Even the planets and the signs of the zodiac, which many admire, are viewed as evil offspring in Mandaean belief. These celestial bodies aren't neutral. They're tricksters, pulling humans deeper into material illusions. In between these two realms lies our own world, the earthly world, a place of confusion, a battlefield of light and shadow. It is here that humanity was formed. According to Mandaean cosmology, the first man, Adam, was created not by the great life, but by a lesser being, Tahil. He is a demiurge, a cosmic architect who builds but doesn't understand. He molded Adam's body from dust and matter, but the soul, the true essence, came from the light world. And so mankind was born split, divine and dirty, sacred and sinful. This inner conflict defines our lives. We are caught in a war we barely see, a war that rages inside every beating heart, a pull between the soul's desire to return to the light and the body's hunger for the material world. But the Mandaeans do not leave this story untold. They trace their lineage back to Adam through a sacred line of prophets. Some names are familiar: Noah, Moses. But their greatest prophet is not who most expect. It is John the Baptist. Yes, that John. The same one who appears in the Bible crying in the wilderness, baptizing crowds in the Jordan River. But in Mandaean belief, John was not merely a prophet preparing the way for Jesus. He was the final prophet, the guardian of their knowledge, the bringer of ritual purity. In fact, they believe John was sent from the light world, placed in his mother Elizabeth's womb by divine command. He taught the Mandaeans how to perform sacred baptisms, how to keep their bodies and spirits clean from the filth of the dark world. He became the heart of their faith. What sets the Mandaeans apart is not just their story, but how they live it. Their faith is drenched in water. Baptism is not a one-time ritual, but a weekly necessity. Every Sunday they gather at rivers, natural flowing waters they call yardna, to wash away the pollution of the world. Unlike the Christian idea of baptism as a symbolic rebirth, Mandaeans see it as a literal cleansing of the soul. The water itself is holy, a living piece of the light world flowing through earth. Each ritual is carefully performed. The believer wears white garments called rasta, a color symbolizing light and purity. The priest, often a respected elder, chants prayers from sacred books. His words are like a bridge, connecting this world with the one beyond. The person being baptized is marked on the forehead, offered clean water to drink, and wrapped in holy silence. This is not done in secret. It is done in the open, by rivers under the sky, as a sign to the universe that the soul still remembers where it came from. Their sacred texts are just as mysterious as their rituals. The most important is the Ginza Arba, or the Great Treasure, written in a language called Mandaic, a cousin of the Aramaic used in ancient Babylon. It holds their origin stories, their laws, their visions of the end times. The Ginza is split into two parts, the left and the right. The left tells of the soul's journey back to the light world, its trials, its memories, its final return. The right focuses on creation, divine laws, and the battles between light and darkness. Even the way it is read is unusual. One side is flipped upside down to access the other, a symbol of the upside-down world we live in. Another book, the Book of John, tells the story of their great prophet. But this is no simple tale. It challenges familiar religious figures. In its pages, Mary is accused of magical conception. Jesus is painted as a deceiver. And the God of the Jews is called a false being. These words speak of an ancient tension, one born from a time when religious groups fought not with swords, but with scrolls. And so the Mandaeans endure, a people of secret rivers and whispered truths. They cannot be converted into. One must be born a Mandaean. And if a member marries outside the faith, their children are no longer considered part of the community. Their numbers have dwindled. From tens of thousands, they have become scattered survivors. Wars, persecution, and exile have threatened to wash them away. But like their sacred rivers, they keep flowing, quiet, steady, pure. Exiles of the hidden light. Scattered across the earth like embers from a long-forgotten fire, the Mandaeans carry their flame quietly. What began along the flowing rivers of ancient Mesopotamia now flickers in distant lands, Australia, Europe, the United States. They are a people in exile, and yet they endure. Their survival is not just a matter of memory, it is a ritual act, repeated again and again, week after week. In every river where they gather, every whispered prayer, and every drop of running water, the Mandaeans are not just preserving a faith, they are defying oblivion. The 20th and 21st centuries have not been kind to them. Political upheaval, religious persecution, and war turned their homeland into a place of danger. Once settled in southern Iraq and southwestern Iran, Mandaeans found themselves targeted. During the chaos of the Iranian Revolution in 1979, they lost their protected status as people of the book. In the years that followed, violence chased them out. By the time the Iraq War of 2003 shattered what remained of stability, many Mandaeans had fled. They became refugees, not just from their homes, but from history. Imagine carrying thousands of years of sacred tradition and suddenly having no temple, no river, no priesthood to guide you. That's what they faced. Some families carried their sacred scrolls in suitcases, hidden under clothes and wrapped in linen. Others crossed borders with nothing but memory, rituals, language, and belief. These had to be reborn in unfamiliar places. Despite all odds, some communities managed to rebuild. A striking example is found near Sydney, Australia. Here, under modern bridges and beside paved roads, Mandaeans have found flowing water. They wear their white garments, just as their ancestors did. They chant prayers in Mandaic, a language no longer spoken anywhere else in the world, and they baptize again and again, purifying not just themselves, but the line that stretches back to Adam. Their rituals are precise. Every motion is sacred. Each dip in the water is a renewal, not only of the soul, but of identity itself. In these diaspora communities, the role of the priest is more vital than ever. There are 3 priestly ranks: the Tarmida, the Ganzibra, and the Rishama. The Rishama is the head priest, a rare and respected figure. Some communities say no true Rishama remains today, while others believe the role survives in isolated elders. Regardless, every Mandaean priest is a guardian of knowledge, a living book. And in a world that often forgets its past, the priest becomes a torchbearer. He not only performs baptisms and funerals, but teaches children the sacred texts. He protects the ancient alphabet. He ensures that, even in exile, Mandaeism does not become a relic. It remains alive, breathing through voices and verses. The priest also guards the community's most treasured possessions, their scriptures. The Ginza Arba, as mentioned, is the most sacred text. But there are others. The Kolasta, a collection of ritual prayers, accompanies nearly every ceremony. The Book of John, deeply theological and sometimes controversial, tells of their prophet's life and his warnings. These texts are still copied by hand in many places, script by script, word by word. They are not just books, they are lifelines. Even the alphabet itself is rare. The Mandaic script is distinct, curved, looping, and rhythmic. It descends from ancient writing systems used by Nabateans and Palmyreans in the deserts of Syria and Jordan. To the Mandaeans, this alphabet is sacred. Every letter sings of divine truth. When scholars discovered ancient incantation bowls inscribed with these letters dating back to the 5th century, it was a revelation. These bowls, used to trap or repel evil spirits, confirmed that Mandaeism's roots were deep, far older than most realized. But survival isn't just about history. It's about the future. Mandaeans today are facing a spiritual crisis. With fewer than 100,000 followers worldwide, and possibly as low as 40,000, each child becomes a vital vessel of tradition. Yet the younger generation often grows up speaking English, Arabic, or Farsi, not Mandaic. Many are born in places far from rivers. Cities do not flow. Water is captured in concrete and pipes. Ritual life becomes harder. Priests and elders worry. How do you preserve a closed, endogamous faith in a globalized world? Mandaeism does not allow conversion. You cannot join it. You must be born into it. And if you marry outside the faith, you and your children are considered spiritually disconnected. This strict boundary, once a shield, now risks becoming a wall. Some voices within the faith call for openness, suggesting that spiritual lineage should matter more than biological descent. Others resist. They say the purity of the tradition must be protected at all costs. This tension creates fractures, but also sparks questions that have not been asked in centuries. There's something quietly revolutionary about the Mandaeans. They do not seek converts. They do not evangelize. They do not demand the world bend to them. Instead, they turn inward, like a candle protected from the wind. Their focus is on maintaining cosmic order. between the soul and the body, between the world of light and the temptations of darkness. And that's what makes them so rare. While the modern world chases speed and screens, the Mandaeans kneel beside rivers. While cultures fracture and identities dissolve, they pass on a language that predates kingdoms. In a time when everyone speaks, they remain silent, except in prayer. Their mission is not to conquer, it is to remember. In funeral rites, this remembrance is clear. Death to the Mandaean is not an end, but a passage. The soul is prepared for its journey home to the light world. Ritual meals are shared. Oil is poured gently across the forehead, and the body is crowned with myrtle. Every step has meaning. Every action is a bridge between realms. This ritual is called the ascent, and that name says everything. To die for a Mandaean is not to vanish, it is to rise. And that is the hope that keeps them going, despite exile, despite war, despite forgetting, despite modern life's rush and roar. They are the last guardians of a story that began before time had a name. And they are not ready to let it end. Waters of war and wisdom. Beneath the surface of every sacred river runs a memory, one that doesn't fade with exile or fear. For the Mandaeans, water is not just nature's gift. It is the thread that ties their souls to the realm of light. But in a world choked by conflict, even rivers can turn against you. And so their struggle continued, not only with demons of myth, but with the terrors of men. The 19th century brought death by disease. A sweeping cholera epidemic in southwestern Iran wiped out entire Mandaean villages. Their priests, the keepers of secrets and rituals, fell one by one. Without priests, baptisms could not be performed. Without baptisms, the bond to the light world frayed. In those quiet ruins, many feared the end had come, but they did not vanish. Even after losing whole generations, survivors clung to ritual. They gathered water from wells. They whispered prayers by candlelight. They buried their dead with trembling hands, still believing the soul could rise. Soon after, human violence came to finish what disease had started. In the 1870s, a local governor, ignoring the Shah's protection, led a massacre against the Mandaeans. Homes were burned, scrolls were torn, rivers ran dark, and yet, again, they endured. It was not the last blow. The Iranian Revolution of 1979 marked a turning point. Under the new religious rule, Mandaeans lost their legal recognition. They had once been considered people of the book, a rare status that protected small religions, but now they were stripped of the shelter. Their rituals were branded as foreign. Their rivers were watched. At the same time, across the border in Iraq, life unraveled. The rise of Saddam Hussein, the long war with Iran, and later the chaos following the 2003 U.S.-led invasion created a perfect storm. Mandaeans were hunted, not for war, not for politics, but for being who they were. They were seen as outsiders, strange water worshippers with no protection. Kidnappings became common. Priests were targeted. Churches known as mandis were destroyed or abandoned. Many Mandaeans were forced to convert to Islam under threat. Others fled at night, crossing deserts and oceans in silence. They became a people without a land. Yet even in this darkness, they held onto their light. In refugee camps, Mandaeans taught their children how to pray in Mandaic. In small apartments across Europe and Australia, they kept handwritten copies of the Ginza RBA, passed down like treasure. In some cases, entire families would rent a van and drive miles just to find running water for a weekly baptism. It wasn't just about survival. It was about staying connected to the divine, to their ancestors, to the truth buried in their bones. but challenges kept growing. Their most pressing danger now is not persecution, it is forgetting. In modern cities, Mandaean children grow up with smartphones and school books, not scrolls. They speak the languages of their new homes, English, German, Swedish. Few can read Mandaic, fewer still understand its sacred rhythms. The prayers, once recited daily, now echo only on weekends, if at all. This is the quiet danger, not violence, not fire, but erosion. The erosion of memory. Some leaders have tried to fight back. In Australia, digital archives of sacred texts have been created. Videos of baptisms are recorded and shared with young Mandaeans across the globe. Scholars partner with priests to preserve language, stories, and symbols. In Sweden, new mandis have been built, complete with flowing water and spaces for ritual meals. In the United States, elders teach classes on the alphabet and the meanings behind each prayer. The goal is simple: ignite the flame again before it fades. But it isn't easy. The strict rule that only those born into the faith can remain. Mandaeans makes growth nearly impossible. If a young man marries someone outside the religion, he is cast out. His children are no longer seen as bearers of the light. This ancient rule was once a fortress. Now it feels like a trap. And so debate rises among the elders. Some call for a new path, a broader definition of Mandaean identity, not just birthright, but belief, not just blood, but spirit. They argue that the soul matters more than the surname. Others resist. They say the tradition has already been battered. To change now would be betrayal. The laws are sacred, they claim unchangeable. This tension divides communities, and yet it also brings a question to the surface. What does it really mean to be Mandaean? It is not just about rituals or books or the past. It is about living a life of purity, knowledge, and connection to the unseen. It is about recognizing the light within, even as the world pulls toward darkness. It is about knowing that behind this life is another, brighter realm waiting for return. That's the heart of their Gnostic vision. Knowledge, not just facts or traditions, but sacred insight, an awakening, a remembering. This is why the soul must be bathed in flowing water, why prayers must be spoken in the language of old, why the body must be kept clean. Every act, no matter how small, is part of the soul's journey back to its origin. As the Mandaeans face the future, they carry both a burden and a blessing. The burden is survival, of rituals, language, and community. The blessing is their unwavering clarity. They know who they are. They have always known. Through war, exile, silence, and storms, they have remembered. And now, as the world grows louder, faster, more distracted, their stillness stands out. They are not seeking to be popular. They do not bend to trends. They do not trade their rivers for convenience. They wait. They baptize. They whisper to the light. They remain. The silence between the stars. In the quiet places of the earth, along riverbanks, inside candlelit homes, within whispered prayers, Mandaeans still hold to something most of the world has lost. They have no armies, no famous leaders, no monuments stretching into the sky. What they do have is something deeper, a map for the soul. This map isn't drawn on paper. It's written in water, light, and memory. It tells of a journey every human must take, not across deserts or oceans, but across dimensions, across lifetimes. To understand the Mandaeans is to step outside of what most people call reality. Their world isn't built on what the eyes can see. It's shaped by what the soul remembers. According to their ancient texts, we do not belong here. This world, with its pain and hunger, with its wars and decay, is not our true home. We are visitors, and every soul is a traveler, caught between two forces, light and darkness. In the beginning, there was only the light world, a place beyond words, full of brilliance, harmony, and eternal life. From it came the great life, a being too vast for form, too holy for image. From that source came Uthri, beings of radiant light. They didn't rule or conquer. They praised, they guarded, they danced in the presence of divine truth. But then, something shifted. A spark fell from the light world. It landed in a place not yet formed. From that fall, darkness was born, not as punishment, but as separation. This dark realm birthed its own rulers, Ruha, the twisted spirit of chaos, and her monstrous son, Together, they built a prison of illusion. They filled it with stars and planets, not as guides, but as traps. They made time and death. They wove a world where souls forget who they are. That world is ours. What we call life, the Mandaeans call exile. The body to them is not sacred. It's a shell, a cage, a temporary garment that weighs down the soul. The true self is light. The body is made of earth. And just like water poured into a clay jar, the soul inside the body longs to escape. But escape is not easy. The material world pulls at us. Hunger, pain, greed, fear. All these things come from the dark realm. They distract. They confuse. They whisper lies to the soul, telling it to stay, to forget, to fall deeper. The Mandaeans know this. And that's why their rituals are so serious, so constant. They are not habits. They are weapons in a war of spirit. Every act has purpose. To eat bread after baptism. To anoint with sesame oil. To wear only white during sacred ceremonies. These aren't customs. They are codes. Each one breaks the grip of the dark realm, if only for a moment. And each baptism is more than a washing. It is a rescue. When a Mandaean steps into running water, they are stepping into a piece of the light world. Flowing water is not just clean, it's alive. It carries memory. It carries light. They call it Yardna, a sacred current. In that water, the soul is reminded. It's not from here. It belongs elsewhere. This idea of duality, light and dark, soul and body, truth and illusion, runs through everything the Mandaeans believe. Even time is split. There is earthly time ruled by cycles, by the rising of suns and the ticking of clocks. And then there is heavenly time, a state where nothing changes, where everything just is. They believe that when we die, our soul begins a journey, not just upward, but inward. It passes through barriers. It faces questions. It must remember who it is, what it has done, and where it came from. This journey is not automatic. That's why funerary rites are vital. At death, the body is washed, wrapped, and crowned with myrtle. Prayers are read not for comfort, but for navigation. The soul is helped, guided, shown the way home. This ritual is called the ascent. And for the Mandaeans, it's the most important passage of life. Fail to perform it, and the soul may wander, lost between worlds, trapped in the confusion of the dark realm. Do it correctly, and the soul returns to the light world, where it becomes what it was before, a spark in the presence of the great life. This belief changes how they see everything. They don't worship idols. They don't believe in temples made of stone. Their Mandi, the place of worship, is always near water, open to sky, humble. Their faith doesn't need grandeur. It needs flow. They don't seek converts. To them, truth is not for sale. It's hidden within. If a soul remembers, it will seek. If it does not, no sermon will awaken it. And they do not fear death. To them, death is not the end, but the opening of a locked door. Still, their way of life is fragile. Even as they hold tightly to their truths, the world around them grows louder, faster, harsher. Modern life doesn't leave much space for stillness. The sacred rivers are shrinking. The cities spread wider. The digital world replaces memory with screens. A young Mandaean in London or Houston may never see the Tigris, may never speak Mandaic fluently, may question why they must bathe in rivers while their classmates watch cartoons and text friends. The pull of forgetfulness is strong. But so is the Mandaean soul. Even scattered they gather, even exiled they remember. They translate their texts, they teach their children, they rebuild what is broken. Because they know the truth isn't found in temples or governments. It's in water, in silence, in the space between the stars. To outsiders, the Mandaeans seem strange, distant. But their story is not just theirs, it is ours. We all come into this world confused. We forget things we never knew we remembered. We chase meaning in jobs, in money, in noise. But something whispers beneath it all, something that says, you don't belong here. The Mandaeans never stopped listening to that voice. And that is why, after thousands of years, they are still here. Not many, but enough. Enough to keep the light alive. The war beneath the veil, behind every familiar moment, every sunrise, every breath, every step, is a hidden war. Most people never see it. They're too busy chasing routines, wrapped in noise, numbed by distractions. But the Mandaeans see it clearly. They live in the middle of it. This war isn't fought with weapons or armies. It's older, it's deeper. It's a war between the world you see and the world that is. The Mandaeans believe this world, our world, is covered by a veil. That veil hides truth. It makes things seem solid, permanent, safe. But it's only a trick. A mirage built by dark forces to keep souls trapped. To them, evil isn't just an idea, it's a system. A structure made to confuse. Everything from false gods to lying stars is part of it. The planets, the zodiac signs, even time itself, are tools of entrapment, meant to bind the soul to the material world. That's why Mandaeans stay separate. Not because they think they're better, but because they see things differently. To mix too much with the world is to risk forgetting. And forgetting is the greatest danger of all. Forget who you are, and you'll stay chained. Remember who you are, and the chains fall away. This is what the Mandaeans teach, that every soul is light trapped in flesh, that we're not born free, we're born lost, but we were never meant to stay that way. Each ritual, each word spoken in Mandaic, each step into the sacred water is a cry of resistance, a reminder, a refusal to be swallowed by darkness. Even their language fights the illusion. Mandaic is more than speech. It's a living code. Every letter curves like a wave. Every word breathes mystery. It's tied to memory, to magic, to power. Speaking it is like tuning your soul to a higher frequency. But outside pressures threaten it. In schools, children learn English, Arabic, or Farsi. On phones and tablets, they tap out messages in modern scripts. The old tongue fades unless it's passed down, carefully, intentionally, word by word. And so elders gather young ones in small rooms. They open the Ginza Arba. They trace the ancient letters with wrinkled fingers. They don't just read, they transmit. Because without language, the light dims. And when the light dims, darkness wins. Mandaeism has no idols, no golden statues, no towering temples. But it has symbols. One of the most powerful is the drabsha. a banner made of white silk stretched over a wooden frame, shaped like a cross, crowned with myrtle. It stands during rituals, especially baptisms and funerals. It represents the four corners of the universe and the soul's path to the light world. But it is not worshipped. It is a signal, a flag planted in the battleground of existence declaring, we remember who we are. The light world, where all souls come from, is not some faraway heaven with harps and clouds. It's a realm beyond language, beyond shape. It is peace that cannot be disturbed. It is truth without form. And while most people search for meaning and success or fame, the Mandaean search for reunion with that place, that presence, that source. They believe that within each person is a spark of the great life, a piece of eternity wrapped in bone. But that spark can be buried, dimmed, even snuffed out if we forget too long. That's why every part of their life matters. What they eat, what they wear, who they marry, how they mourn. Every act either feeds the light or starves it. One of the most serious spiritual tasks is maintaining ritual purity. Mandaeans avoid anything that connects them to the dark realm: blood, dead flesh, unclean objects. Before handling sacred books, even before praying, they must cleanse themselves. Water isn't a symbol, it's a necessity. Flowing water is the only force strong enough to cleanse the stains of this world. Their priests, especially the Tarmida and Ganzebra, must live even more strictly. They are bridges between worlds. When they speak, they are not just using breath. They are channeling sound from the light world itself. And when they baptize, it's not just for purity, it's for protection. Because the dark realm never rests. Ruha, the mother of darkness, and her monstrous son aren't just characters and stories. They represent confusion, division, decay. They are the rulers of the material world, and in Mandaean belief they whisper through desire, through lies, through systems of power that trap the soul. Even the stars in the sky, what others see as symbols of beauty, the Mandaeans see as deceivers, lights that mislead, signs that distract. Only the Uthri, the beings of light, can guide the soul safely home. They watch, they wait, they protect. But they will not interfere unless the soul seeks. And that seeking, that hunger for return, is what defines the Mandaean path. In today's world, where everything moves fast and attention is scattered, Mandaeism is like a whisper in a storm, easy to miss, easy to ignore. But once heard, it lingers. It asks questions few dare to ask. What if the world is a lie? What if the truth is hidden on purpose? What if your soul is a captive and doesn't even know it? Most people run from such thoughts. The Mandaeans walk straight into them. That's why they are often misunderstood, labeled as secretive, called strange. Their refusal to blend in is seen as weakness. But it's not weakness. It's strength. To live by light in a world made of shadow takes courage. To preserve ancient rites when the world mocks them takes patience. To believe after exile, war and silence, that the soul can still return home takes faith stronger than stone. They have been called the last Gnostics, but they are more than that. They are guardians of remembrance. And in a time when forgetting has become normal, they choose to remember. Souls between two worlds. The Mandaeans believe something most people fear to say aloud, that this world is broken. Not by accident, not by human hands alone, but by design. It's a system built to trap, to confuse, to pull the soul deeper into forgetfulness. To many that sounds strange, but to them it's simple. What feels normal to most, greed, pride, war, hunger. They see as signs, proof that we've wandered far from the light. They say the soul is like a traveler who's lost its map, born into a body, dropped into a noisy world, and told to forget where it came from. The job of the soul isn't just to survive, it's to remember. To remember its origin in the light world, to remember its mission, and most of all, to find the path back. That path is not easy. It's not marked by road signs or revealed in books. It's hidden in symbols, in dreams, in silence. The Mandaeans say this journey is walked not with feet, but with purity, prayer, and purpose. The material world has rules: gravity, time, decay. But the soul follows different laws. It doesn't rot, doesn't rust, but it can grow dim. Every lie, every act of cruelty, every moment lost in lust or envy, these are like shadows that coat the soul, and over time, if not cleansed, they can weigh it down, so much that it forgets the light entirely. That's why Mandaean life is one of constant cleansing. They don't just clean their hands, they clean their being, through water, through truth, through sacred repetition. Because for them, spiritual hygiene is more important than anything you can touch or taste. Even their sacred texts are treated like living things. The Ginza Arbiye, their most treasured scripture, isn't read casually. It's read with ceremony, with clean hands, in clean spaces. It's written in Mandaic, a language few outside their faith can speak. But in those words, passed from prophet to priest, is a secret pattern, a reminder of how the soul was formed and how it must rise. The book speaks of cosmic battles, hidden angels, and the trickery of the dark realm. But more than that, it speaks of home, of what the light world is, of who we were before the fall. There's a reason the Mandaeans guard their community so tightly. They don't allow conversion. They don't intermarry. They believe the light is passed through blood and spirit, that letting the outside in could dilute the sacred charge they've been given. To outsiders, this may seem unfair, even harsh, but to the Mandaeans, it's not exclusion, it's protection. They are the last keepers of a system older than churches and mosques, a blueprint of creation written before the stars turned, and they believe it must be guarded until the end. That end, they say, is coming. The Mandaeans have prophecies, warnings woven into their ancient hymns. They speak of a time when darkness will grow bold, when souls will forget entirely, when rivers will dry and rituals will fade. They do not picture the end as fire from the sky. They see it as silence, the final forgetting. But even that isn't the true end. They believe that the great life will call, that the light world will open, and that those who remembered, even through chaos, will rise, not as warriors, not as rulers, but as souls finally awake. And so while the world rushes, the Mandaeans wait. They wait beside rivers. They wait with candles and oil. They wait with books that crumble at the edges, written by ancestors who knew more than science ever could. They whisper songs older than cities. They prepare their dead with crowns of myrtle. They eat bread not just for the body, but for the bond it seals. They know the war is invisible, but they also know it's real. Today they are few, maybe 40,000, maybe less. Some live in refugee camps, others in suburbs, many in silence, afraid to share what they believe. Still, they rise every Sunday to meet the water. Still, they speak prayers in a language the world forgot. Still, they remember. And in a world drowning in data but starving for wisdom, their memory matters. Because it holds a truth few dare say, that the world we see is not the only one, that within each of us is something not yet broken. That light, buried beneath flesh and fear, can still burn. The Mandaeans aren't just a religion, they're a resistance. Against forgetting, against noise, against the slow death of the sacred. They've stood between worlds for thousands of years, watching, waiting, whispering the truth. Not everyone will listen. But for those who do, they offer a map home, the hidden gate. Most people live as if this world is all there is. Wake up, work, eat, scroll, sleep. The Mandaeans know better. They say there's a gate, a hidden one, between this world and the next. But you can't find it with your eyes. You find it with the soul. This gate doesn't open for everyone. Not because it's locked, but because most never notice it. They're too distracted, too pulled by desire, anger, pride. These are not just emotions to the Mandaeans. They are chains, invisible but heavy. Chains that bind the soul to a world built to make you forget who you are. The Mandaeans see life differently. To them, we are not beginning here. We are returning here, again and again, until the soul is finally ready to go home. Not home as in a house or a land. Home as in the light world. The place before all places. The realm before thought. Where everything is pure. Where the soul is whole. Every soul came from there. But not every soul returns. Some get stuck. Others give up. And many don't even know they're in a prison. But the Mandaeans do. And they've been guarding the escape route for thousands of years. The escape isn't dramatic. It isn't lightning or fire or angels shouting from clouds. It's quiet. It begins with water. It continues with truth. And it ends with light. The baptism, the prayers, the anointing, the sacred meals. These are not customs. They are instructions, ancient blueprints drawn by those who remembered the light and left signs for those still wandering in darkness. The gate opens, not with force, but with purity. To the Mandaeans, the soul is not saved by belief alone. It's saved by remembrance. By aligning the body and spirit with the divine order that was broken when the soul first fell into this world. That's why their rituals are repeated, week after week, year after year. It's not just habit. It's maintenance, like tending a sacred flame. Let it go out, and the soul risks being swallowed by the shadows again. They believe the body is like a temporary garment, useful for a while, but not permanent. The true self is inside, light wrapped in flesh. That light has a purpose. It must rise. But rising is not easy. The dark world doesn't want to let go. It sends distractions, temptations, confusion. It wraps the mind in lies and tells the soul there's nothing beyond what it can see. It makes death seem like an ending. The Mandaeans say otherwise. Death, they teach, is not the end of the soul. It is the beginning of the journey back through the veils, layers upon layers that separate this world from the light world. That's why the dead are treated with such care. They are washed, dressed, anointed. Their soul is guided with prayers. Their forehead is marked. Their journey is spoken aloud. So even in death, they are not alone. The funeral rite is called the ascent, and it's exactly that. A spiritual climb from the realm of matter through the realms of shadow into the brilliance of the origin. But it can only be completed if the soul has been prepared in life, if it lived with purity, if it followed the rituals, if it remembered. In today's world, where few believe in anything beyond the visible, the Mandaeans stand as a living contradiction. They hold to an invisible truth. They trust in an unseen world. and they devote their lives to reaching it. This kind of faith is rare, not blind faith, not belief without thought, but ancient knowing, a wisdom passed down not in slogans, but in silence and sacred acts. They do not preach on street corners. They do not beg others to believe. They simply live it. Every baptism, every whisper in Mandaic, every loaf of sacred bread is an act of resistance, a refusal to forget the gate exists. There are many today who chase the mystical, the spiritual, the hidden. But most of it is watered down, mixed with fantasy, dressed in glitter. The Mandaeans carry something raw, something older than temples, older than prophets. A direct line to a worldview that never needed permission from kings or popes. They don't ask to be understood. They ask only to continue. And they know time is running out. Because each generation speaks less of the light. Each year, fewer children learn Mandaic. The rivers grow dirty. The sacred scrolls wear thin. The priests grow old. And in exile, many Mandaeans are scattered across cities with no flowing water, only pipes and screens. Still, they adapt. Some have built ritual pools that flow like rivers. Some have translated sacred texts into modern languages. Some teach the alphabet in secret gatherings, word by word, line by line. Because even if the world forgets, the soul remembers. In the end, the Mandaeans believe only one thing will matter. Not wealth, not fame, not status. Only light. Did you guard it? Did you grow it? Did you follow it when the world tried to pull you into darkness? This is the question every Mandaean asks. Not just once in life, but daily. In the water. In the silence. In the space between here and there. So when you hear their name, when you see their white garments beside a quiet river, know this. They are not clinging to the past. They are protecting the future. A future where the soul remembers the gate and walks through it into light. The river remembers. Beneath the modern world of flashing lights and concrete cities, there is still something ancient flowing, something sacred. You won't find it in books or museums. You'll find it in the water, flowing, silent, watching. The Mandaeans believe that the river remembers. It remembers the first soul, the first prayer, the first crossing from the dark world into the light. And every time they step into that water, they aren't just bathing, they're returning. The sacred water, called Yardna, is more than a symbol. It is a living connection to the light world, a direct current from eternity into the physical realm. Not all water qualifies. It must be moving, alive. Still water doesn't carry the same spirit. It cannot cleanse what lies deep in the soul. That's why the Mandaeans search for flowing rivers, even if it means traveling far, even if the rivers are polluted, even if it's dangerous. Because without that water, the soul begins to forget. And forgetting, in their eyes, is worse than death. In cities, where rivers are rare and often poisoned by machines, Mandaeans have adapted. They've built artificial channels, small pools with pumps that keep the water in motion. They call it substitute Yardna, but the intent is the same. Keep the soul awake. Their priests, dressed in white, step carefully into the water, holding ancient scrolls, whispering words written centuries ago in the Mandaic tongue. The prayers are long, melodic, and slow. Every syllable has meaning. Every breath is a bridge. In that moment, the chaos of the modern world disappears. All that exists is water, word, and light. The Mandaeans don't perform these rituals for attention. They don't live stream baptism. They don't invite cameras. They don't chase popularity. Their sacred moments are not meant for display. They are meant for transformation. Because the soul must be trained to remember where it came from and where it's going. Their ancestors believed that the soul travels through layers after death. Each layer is filled with obstacles, questions, guardians. These are not physical places, but spiritual checkpoints. And at each one, the soul must prove it lived a clean life, full of truth, humility, and sacred action. If it cannot answer, if it cannot remember, if it is too heavy with the filth of the world, it does not pass. It remains trapped, lost in the gray space between realms. This is why every baptism matters. It's not just for the living, it's for the after. Death in Mandaean belief is not an end, but a test of whether the soul has been prepared. That's why, when someone dies, their body is treated with the same care given to sacred scrolls. It is washed gently, anointed with oil wrapped in white. Their mouth is touched with ritual water. A wreath of myrtle is placed above their head, symbolizing victory over darkness. The priest then recites prayers to guide the soul, not just for comfort, but for navigation. Because the journey to the light world is long, and not everyone finds the path. The Mandaeans live each day as if their soul is being measured, not by other people, but by light itself. They don't believe in sin the way others do. They don't teach punishment with fire or demons. Instead, they speak of distortion, how the soul becomes clouded by selfishness, lies, violence, and desire. The more distorted the soul becomes, the harder it is to rise. That's why the goal isn't perfection. It's purification. A steady cleansing of the spirit through ritual, through intention, through sacred acts repeated until they become part of the soul's rhythm. This is not an easy way to live, especially in a world that laughs at ritual, forgets silence, and worships speed. But the Mandaeans continue. In refugee communities, in small apartments, in rivers behind industrial buildings, they continue. They teach their children not just words, but wonder, not just history, but eternity. Even if the language is fading, even if the world has turned away, even if there are only a few, because they know something most have forgotten, that the soul is ancient, and that the body is temporary, and that water remembers what we do not. Their children are taught early, not just how to read or write, but how to listen. To rivers, to light, to the voice inside that knows this world is not home. They learn that truth isn't found in arguments or applause. It's found in the act of quiet devotion, in sharing ritual bread, in the clasping of hands called kushta, a sacred handshake that means truth in Mandaic, a promise between souls, a bond of trust, sealed in silence. In many places, the younger generation struggles. They live in countries where their faith is unknown. Their neighbors don't understand the weekly baptisms. Their classmates ask why they can't eat certain foods, why they dress in white, why they avoid parties. Some fall away, others rebel. But some return, drawn by the mystery of their heritage. They feel the pull of something older than the world around them. They feel the river calling. And when they step into the water, something awakens. Not just memory, but identity. Mandaeism doesn't promise riches or rewards. It promises one thing: return. Return to the realm of truth. Return to the light. Return to the self that existed before fear, before pride, before the fall. It asks everything of the soul and gives everything back. But only to those who remember, only to those who walk through the water with eyes open and hearts clean. Only to those who believe that the river still speaks and that the light is waiting. Voices that do not die. Even if the world falls silent, some voices still echo, not in crowds, not in headlines, but in the soul. The Mandaeans carry such a voice. It is not loud, it is not proud, but it is old, and it refuses to die. This voice speaks through water, through rituals, through a language almost forgotten. It calls the soul not to rise in power, but to return to purity. In their world, memory is everything. Not memory of birthdays or old stories, but memory of origin, before birth, before the body, before breath. The soul came from the light world, pure and shining. But when it entered this realm of matter, it forgot, like a dream fading after waking. The Mandaeans exist to help the soul remember its home, remember its purpose, remember the way back. They are not trying to save the world. They are trying to preserve the way through it. Most people walk through life asleep, distracted by noise, blinded by greed, drowned in false comforts. The Mandaeans walk differently. They walk with care, with purpose. Every step is sacred. Even the simple things, how they dress, how they eat, how they greet one another, hold meaning. White robes represent the light they carry. Oil on the forehead seals divine protection. Myrtle crowns signal victory of the spirit over flesh. And the Kushta handshake is more than a greeting. It is a covenant. They believe the soul is tested not just in death, but in every moment of life. The world